The people that succeed on the sketch shows on network feel like they're really good at writing for themselves to some
Yeah.
degree. I want to get under the hood a little bit about the 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 storytelling technique that you taught and came up through, which is the herald and the beats, because I've seen it in really good sitcom writing, the way things come back around and callbacks come back naturally from the situation with the same characters. So how does that affect in the stuff you write? I mean, is it's an improv art form, but it's also like a way to write stories.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that my training in improv or the Herald, which is a form like we all learned. We didn't create that one. That was all Dell. I don't know if it necessarily like I refer to it mentally and go, oh yeah, this is where we need a second beat or whatever. Because I think a lot of storytelling, because we all grow up watching TV or hearing stories, is inherent in us, whether we know it or not. We kind of know like, oh, there needs to be a happy ending, or we know there needs to be conflict. So I don't know. I think with our sketch show, we definitely mimic the Herald because we started with disparate scenes. And what we wanted to do is have sort of second beats and then have those worlds collide and then sort of third beats where there was some sort of resolution or seeming resolution. So that inside the sketch show, that did inform our sketch show. We wanted to have innovation in as opposed to like sketch, go away. So that was something intentional. And also the overlay of the ridiculous super organization that was the Upright Citizens Brigade pulling the strings on, what was happening in the world.
Like from that sort of control room, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever that second season, it was a truck because Comedy Central cut our budget. And then third season, it was like a even shittier. The first season, we had a great cave like Batman.
Yeah.
And then it slowly got, widowed away.
Did that bleed into the way that because I've read articles about how Veep was written and conceived and then shot, and from what I've gleaned, the stories can start improvisationally and then get beated out and scripted.
Well, with Veep, I benefited from my improv training 100%. Like I did shows did you ever go to the Annoyance in Chicago, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I came out of the Annoyance too, where we would sort of improvise whole plays and learn how to like develop character traits and incorporate them. And then obviously improv on stage, like all those hours I spent in Chicago just doing live shows taught me like improv skills. So I was very geared for a show, and Armando, the creator, was very improv friendly. So when we started the pilot, he was open to improv because their take on the characters, once we were cast, they kind of put it down and they wanted to see what American, because they were all Brits. So they wanted to see, let's make it more American. So they allowed us room to play and then lines. And then the writers, there were scenes written, but anything problematic, we would put the scripts down and we would just improvise, and the writers would take notes, and oftentimes stuff we improvised or ideas for scenes. And I think too, sketch training mattered because like, you can pitch, we were pitching ideas. Like what if anything from like, I don't think Mike should say this. I think Jonah should come in with it, like things like that. Or like, what if the scene went this way? So we were pitching whole ideas, and then we would try those ideas on their feet. So my training gave me huge confidence to make tons of mistakes, and also the environment of like Julia and everyone around and Armando, we had tremendous permission to fail. Like once we were on the show, it wasn't like SNL, for example, where you're like, holy shit, if I don't have a good show, I'm out. They told us like, we're going to do tons, because the first season we improvised in the basement of a hotel in London for like 2 weeks. And I remember like some nights I would talk to my wife and like, I wasn't funny at all. I don't, and it made me insecure, but they really encouraged us, like, don't worry about being funny. And then we slowly got used to each other and realized like, oh, we can be terrible for 90% of this improv, and then we really started taking chances, and it was an encouraging environment.
You could rehearse for a couple weeks before being on set.
In the early seasons, the first season we rehearsed for 2 weeks. Like before the pilot, I think we had 2 weeks of rehearsal. It mixed in with like, we did trips to DC to sort of, because we were building characters. And so that was like my Annoyance training really, I felt like helped me, because building characters and remembering my point of view and traits and sort of history, that that really helped me specifically because I was in a show and I got to build my character or certainly influence the character. So that really helped me. And then first season, we had a couple weeks of rehearsals, maybe around 3 or 4 scripts, not the whole season. And then second season, maybe a week. And then every Saturday in, even weeks before the show, between breaks, we would always table read. And then the writers and producers would sit in a room for an hour and talk about what didn't work or this is terrible. And then they would come out of the room and we'd all eaten lunch and they'd say, Walsh, you can go home. Tim, stay. Reed, stay. Julia, stay. And the scenes that weren't working would go on their feet and they would workshop those scenes and the writers would be in there. And then we would pitch ideas like I said, what if he did this? Or what if it was more about, this moment here and we didn't worry about this, whatever.
To what degree was Julia Louis-Dreyfus doing all of that? All this, was she part of that? All the same kind of stuff?
Oh, 100%. She was like Mama Bear. She was in the room after we do the table reads. She was giving her opinion on the scripts, what wasn't working. She was very encouraging to us. She was always, I remember her telling me because the show was chaotic at times too. It was so ambitious. Like we would scripts were like 70 pages for a 30-minute show. And so they were always overshooting and scripts were constantly changing. Like we never memorized anything verbatim. Like you would look at it the night before because you knew in the morning they would give you a brand new version of the scene. So you kind of had the gist of it. So there was a lot of moving parts. And so she was like, you guys have to be custodians of your characters. So speak up. And she encouraged us to protect your characters, protect the reality. Like she was very much an advocate for all of us. So that, as well as just coming on set and watching things on our days off, she was very much an active producer.
And were you, and I'm asking this because were you intimidated when you first met her?
Yeah. I met her in my second audition and Allison Jones, God bless her, because I think I auditioned once as written and Allison's like, just don't say the words anymore. Just put the script down. And then I think my second take got me my better audition because I was probably sounding like a bad actor. And then in the second audition, I think we did it as scripted and then we put it down and then Julia was with me and we just played. We just shot the shit and rolled with it. And she, of course, was generous and funny and listened. And I think listening is the ultimate skill is improv. If someone's in a moment and it's real and it's spontaneous and you're able to listen and process it and emotionally understand it and then create something back, that's the gift of improv that I hopefully bring into everything I do.
Mustache Tales.